I'm just a dumb, stupid nigga, right? What do I know? That's a move. One of the moves that I love that liberals try to do. The liberal would try to control a black person through the concept of racism because they know that we are very proud, emotional people. So when I said I like Trump to like someone that's liberal, they'll say, oh, but he's racist. You think racism can control me? Oh, that don't stop me. That's an invisible wall.
What I saw was a minstrel show today. This is white supremacy by ventriloquism. Kanye West is what happens when Negroes don't read.
He's the token Negro of the Trump.
Negroes don't read.
He's the token Negro of the Trump administration, bringing in the second tier of circus performers. So this is a huge circus.
A black mouth is moving, but white racist ideals are flowing from Kanye West's mouth.
But if you think you're going to...
That was crazy.
That was an assault on our White House.
Kanye's mother is rolling over in her grave.
But wouldn't you feel a little bit, wouldn't your conscience ache a little if you found yourself night after night repeating the nastiest possible talking points on behalf of a political party and pretending that you were a journalist?
Kanye West is what happens when Negroes don't read.
He's the token Negro of the Trump administration, bringing in the second tier of circus performers. So this is a huge circus.
A black mouth is moving, but white racist ideals are flowing from Kanye West's mouth.
But if you think you're going to...
That was crazy.
That was an assault on our White House.
Kanye's mother is rolling over in her grave.
Black folks are about to trade Kanye West in the racial draft. He's an attention whore like the president.
Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself.
The kind of conversation that would typically be held between people wearing hospital bracelets.
He's clearly has issues. He's already been hospitalized.
That this happens to him around the anniversary of his mother's death, and that perhaps that triggers his mental illness.
I mean, this is someone who actually sat there and said, I have been diagnosed bipolar. Let's not exploit someone in a position like that.
I'm not a doctor, but I know that something's not right.
I think the Trump White House needs to be put on trial for this spectacle.
This is white supremacy by ventriloquism. A black mouth is moving, but white racist ideals are flowing from Kanye West's mouth. This was an embarrassment. Kanye's mother is rolling over in her grave.
All right, some of the media reaction last night to Kanye West's lunchtime meeting with the President of the United States. Let's bring in Candace Owens. She is the Communications Director for Turning Point USA, and over the last couple of months, she's become friendly with Kanye. Candace, what did you make of some of those sound bites, for instance, talking about how his appearance was an assault on the White House?
Look, all of the commentary that I've heard surrounding this meeting has been absolutely despicable, utterly racist, especially coming from CNN. Don Lemon bringing up his dead mother as a means to draw blood from this man simply because he does not agree with liberal ideas, because he understands that Democrat policies have harmed the black community, and because he's bold enough to move the ball forward and start speaking about these things publicly. So it's been despicable, but you know what? Kanye was built for this.
I'm sorry, we should have put up a warning underneath that video you just saw. He's crazy, he's mentally ill, he shouldn't be allowed in public. He's obviously a white supremacist, you can tell by looking at him. And that was, in the words of CNN, a minstrel show. So
I'm just going to be honest, and I may get in a lot of trouble for it. I actually feel bad for him. What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself.
Now, friends, for those who don't know, a minstrel show was an American form of entertainment developed in the early 19th century, and each show consisted of comic skits, variety acts, dancing, and music performances that mocked people specifically of African descent. To characterize that meeting in the Oval Office as a minstrel show is truly a comment beneath contempt, but I think we're used to that out of Don Lemon and CNN in general.
this is the most important question. Is America still a free country? Can people openly express their beliefs in public? Are they still allowed to say what they think is true without being punished for it? That's what matters most. It matters far more than any single politician or rapper or midterm election. And by that standard, the one that matters, what happened yesterday at the White House tells us a lot about America right now, much of it ominous. In case you missed it, here's part of what Kanye West said yesterday.
You know, people expect that if you're black, you have to be Democrat. I've had conversations that basically said that welfare is the reason why a lot of black people end up being Democrats. They say, first of all, it's a limit to the amount of jobs. So the fathers lose the jobs, and they say, we'll give you more money for having more kids in your home.
So to sum up, Kanye West says that liberal social programs have undermined the black family. He notes that African Americans face enormous pressure not to support Republicans. And he suggests that the Democratic Party often displays undisguised contempt for men and for masculinity. When you think about it, these are not especially controversial statements. They are all obviously true. For one thing, anyone who pays any attention at all already knows that. What West said is so hard to rebut factually that nobody even tried to do that. Instead, they attacked him as a person. They attacked his decency and his mental condition. Now, if that sounds...
That unlike back in the 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement, you may recall a number of protesters holding up signs that said, "I am a man."
Yeah.
Essentially, they're saying that he's not able to say that. He has to hold up signs that says, "I'm not a man. I'm not allowed to think on my own. I may not have my own opinions. I must do whatever the liberal orthodoxy says." And because he didn't do that, people aren't saying, well, Kanye was wrong on this or he's mistaken on that issue. He had his facts wrong. They had denounced him as a minstrel, Negro, the kind of words you've not heard since Jim Crow was buried back in the mid-1960s. I think it's absolutely extraordinary. You come on every night, people disagree with you and tell you you're wrong, but nobody says, well, Tucker, you're a bad white person or you're white trash or anything like that.
Exactly right.
They just disagree with your views, but they attack him as a human being and try to remove his blackness from him, which I think is extraordinary and hideous and disgusting.
But they're not even really treating him as a human being with autonomy and the right to form his own opinions, reach his own conclusions. They're treating him as an interchangeable piece of a larger whole, like a nameless, faceless drone who must obey.
He's a drone who's fallen out of line, and they can't have that. And the fear I think they have is that people will listen to him and start asking questions like, well, isn't it interesting that we've had a president who, after a year and a half, has managed to bring black unemployment to its lowest level in history? We're growing at twice where we were 2 years ago. And suddenly black folks start to think, well, maybe this president's working out, his policies aren't this racist attack we've heard about, that they might suddenly start voting that way, and the Democrats will be in very big trouble. So very important to knock Kanye down, attack him, degrade him, and dehumanize him, which is exactly what the left is doing tonight.
Have you ever seen anything like this? So, I mean, am I misremembering? We're roughly the same age. I don't remember people using terms terms that are so ugly, I'm actually not going to repeat them, and I'm not a very shy person. People didn't used to talk like that in television, did they, until recently?
Not so much, not to this level, and almost as uniformly and consistently across any number of cable channels, various people coming out. This Professor Dyson from my alma mater, Georgetown University, saying the kinds of things he is, that Kanye is a white supremacist, that he's a ventriloquist, that I guess Trump is the puppeteer, pulling his strings or something like this. I mean, if Donald Trump were a white supremacist, why would he have one of America's biggest rappers? Big tech companies are waging war against something like this. I mean, if Donald Trump were a white supremacist, why would he have one of America's biggest rappers in the Oval Office? Wouldn't that destroy his white supremacist base? I mean, if David Duke were president, do you think he'd have Kanye West in the Oval Office? This makes absolutely no sense. It's not logical. And I think it just shows the tremendous state of desperation in which the Democratic left finds itself today.
It's interesting the level of bullying that goes on. I mean, you think if they really thought he was crazy, and they're saying he's crazy because I guess it's okay to mock people's mental illness now. That's a new rule too.
Satanism, I guess,
too. Exactly. But if they really thought that he was out of his mind, they would smile indulgently, like you do to the guy eating imaginary insects on the bus, right?
Exactly.
They don't think he's crazy.
Or you call a doctor in to help him out.
Exactly.
Like
well, thank you. Well, exactly.
He talked about job creation. He talked about specifically improving the economy and the crime disaster in Chicago. He talked about Montessori schools. I mean, it was definitely a stream of consciousness kind of monologue, if you will, but he had some very solid things he had to say in there. And he also made the point that where is it written that if you're black, you have to be a Democrat? And he seems to be breaking away from that notion. And if enough blacks break away from that notion, the Democrats are going to be in really bad shape, because blacks constitute such a large part of the Democratic base that if 8 out of 10 black folks stay Democrat and 2 out of 10 decide to vote Republican, the Democrats are going to go the way of the Whig Party.
Democrats care about the inner city when it's election time. After election time, what do you get? Zero. What was her response? Quiet. Why? Because that is the truth. He told the unadulterated truth. And even though people don't want to hear the truth is bitter, but we have to swallow it. The Democratic Party, I voted for over 20 years of my life. I voted for Barack Obama when he said he was going to bring hope and change. And yes, we can. And no, we didn't. The jobs didn't come. The better schools didn't come. The investment in our communities did not come. National security, our borders are open. We're not safe. We're not safe. And we've got to stop thinking as black and white and purple and Arab. We've got to start thinking as Americans. And that's what Donald Trump is saying. We're Americans. America first.
And I'm going to cut it right there. If y'all sick of leftist lies, Democrats in disguise, that's for sure. They're a bunch of socialist Marxists, masters of the double standards. And if you're as sick of this shit as I am, throw me a thumbs up. Actually, you know what? Subscribe right here. Quiet Math YouTube channel. Well, at least you get the truth as I see it, for what it's worth. Thanks for stopping by. The saga continues.